September 22nd, 2009, that's when I fell out of that old dirty beat up black town car, and I crawled the last 30 or 40 feet through the door into rehab. I was so sick, so broken, I'd lost everything, and I was willing to give it one more shot, otherwise I was ready to check out. But thinking back then, there was not a program back then for retired athletes, especially from the NFL or, bat was up and running, but of course I didn't know anything about that being an NFL player. But I knew that I wanted to make all the years of abuse and the pain and the destruction that I caused my family and friends, and the fact that I'd lost everything or pawned everything to keep I wanted to make that mean something. And obviously I was working on myself, focusing on myself, but I wanted to start an organization that helped other guys out there, because one of the reasons I got into treatment or finally raised my hand and asked for help was a guy that I played with in Tampa, Tom McHale. Played many years next to him. He was my left guard, and he was out there, post-career doing the same things I was doing, self-medicating his injuries he got while he played for the Bucs, and one morning he just didn't wake up. And there was a lot of guys out there like that. There's a lot of guys out there self-medicating their injuries, whether it was opiates or benzos or alcohol. They just wanted to feel normal. They wanted to sleep at night. They wanted to ease the pain, and there was nothing out there for them. So that's how, after I had about a year sober, I started working in the industry. I put together this program. I started working with the NFL, with the Player Care Foundation, with the NFL alumni, with the Players Association. And it was just an opportunity for me to give back to the game that I love so much, and to give back to my brothers, guys that I played with and against, who were struggling just like I was. They were in that deep, dark pit that nobody really wants to go or talk about. And that's how AIR was born. And started working with the NFL. Next thing we know, I meet Sam. We start working with BAT. And Athletes in Recovery doesn't provide a service or a resource, but we're athletes helping athletes. And that's the big connection. We're able to do with athletes what a lot of people can't, because we're pretty protected. We're pretty. I talked earlier about that warrior mentality. We don't let many people in our circle. We wonder who we can trust and who. And right or wrong, it's just that mentality.
That's the way you guys work.
And meeting them where they're at, you know. And so that was how it all started. And we not only were helping baseball players, but we were helping jockeys. These are guys that are pretty beat up and guys who have the same issues. MMA fighters, surfers, golfers, Ironmen, wrestlers. It's NASCAR guys, because everybody has the same issues. And when they don't have their sport anymore, when they don't have that uniform to put on anymore, when they don't have that itinerary and that playbook and that team
structure
around them, they struggle. They struggle with who they are. And I can remember thinking, how do I even contribute to society, if I'm not a football player? Because that's all I had ever been. And as crazy as that sounds, because I was still a father, husband, an employee, as crazy as that sounds, those were the kind of things that went through my head all day, every day after I left. And I thrived in structure. Just tell me where to be somewhere and what to do when I get there, and I'll kill it. I'll do the best you've ever seen. But when I don't have that anymore, I can remember my first job out of football was I was selling concrete all over Houston. And I can remember sitting on a job one day thinking, wow, I used to run down a dark tunnel with 52 other guys, out into the sunlight with pyrotechnics going off, cheerleaders in front of you, 70, 80,000 fans in stadium,
roaring for you
under the lights. now I'm sitting by myself in a truck on a job watching concrete be poured.
Let's tell everyone about Athletes in Recovery and any way that they could really follow up and understand what you're doing, so maybe they want to contribute and be part of that whole process.
Well, and that's what Athletes in Recovery is all about. Like I said, when I came into treatment, there was no program for former athletes or their families, and it was that I was able to find solutions and resources for getting guys 30, 44 days of treatment. There was organizations out there willing to do that and pay for that, but nobody was taking care of aftercare. And in my experience, that was the most important piece, because I remember the day that I walked out of treatment and that door hit me in the rear end, and that was the most scared I've ever been, because I didn't trust Randy Grimes out there alone. Yeah, I was fine in that protected environment of a treatment center, that bubble, but when I was out there on my own, what now? And I knew I needed ongoing services and support. So I didn't have any way to pay for sober living. I didn't have any way to pay for intensive outpatient program. I didn't have any way to pay for a therapist once a week. So these are the things that are that most important piece, is right when you get out of treatment. And whether you're an athlete or anybody else, walking out there and being left to your own demise is that scary part of transition. So that's where Athletes in Recovery comes in. And I know I talk a lot about helping athletes and all that, but really it's athletes helping everybody who is seeking that aftercare, and guys that need a protected environment, or women, guys and women who need ongoing therapy services. That even transportation to and from jobs. We try to help out anything that relates to aftercare, and try to provide those resources, or at least find them the resources and help them pay for it. So that's been the most important part for us, and we've been able to help hundreds of families, hundreds of former players, hundreds of just anybody. After they leave treatment, help them pay for that all-important aftercare.
If anyone would like to contribute, it's very simple. You just go to Randy's website.
All these websites and landing pages have an opportunity to be a part of there, to keep up with what Athletes in Recovery is doing, and also to donate. I had a former kicker recently who his substance abuse had progressed to the point where everybody in his family had pretty much abandoned him, and that's the nature of the disease. He couldn't keep a job, couldn't hold a job, couldn't even get past the front door. But he finally, I talked earlier about that warrior mentality. After years and years and years, he finally put his hand up and asked for help. Well, we got him in treatment. We were able, for Player Care Foundation, the NFL, was able to pay for his treatment. But afterwards, he had no resources. He couldn't go back to his family. He didn't have any money to get a place. Didn't have a car. So it was going to be tough for him to find part-time work unless he drove or rode a bus. And that's not unusual for people who have gone through substance abuse and has burned every bridge in their life as a result of it. That's not an unusual scenario. And so AIR was able to step in and pay for him sober living, pay for him to continue to see a therapist on a weekly basis. And through that, doing that, he got plugged into meetings. He's in a home group. He's around people in recovery, and it's part of his success, because he's part of a family again. He's part of a team again. And
I'm hearing that, and I got to be honest. It's not even part of his success. I think it's required.
Right.
How do you suddenly go, okay, I'm in this shelter and I've got this help and I've got all this, immediate people looking for, any possibility that I need help, and they grab it right away, to, okay, bye.
Right.
buses? That guy's not used to taking buses.
Right.
That wasn't part of his life. We're not even bus people here in America.
Right,
I mean,
right.
we're really not. We drive our cars. So
I get it.
it's huge. So I thank you for filling that need and putting that there. It's absolutely, it's brilliant, it's required, and anyone wants to help, we absolutely are
Thank
happy
you.
to put that word out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming,
Thanks
guys.
for having us.
I so
Oh, yeah.
appreciate this. Sam,